This is an example of a stoichiometry chemistry problem. Sulfuric acid reacts with calcium hydroxide to form calcium sulfate and water. And the first two steps to working out any word problem from stoichiometry is to write the equation and then to balance the equation. Okay, so sulfuric acid would be H2SO4 and calcium hydroxide would be CaOH2. And it would yield calcium sulfate, CaSO4, and water, H2O. And then in order to balance this equation, you need a 2 on your water because it gives you 4 hydrogens on both sides of the equation and 6 oxygen altogether on both sides of the equation, so it is balanced. And for the first problem, you are given 75.0 grams of sulfuric acid and 55.0 grams of calcium hydroxide. Now let's find the limiting reactant and the excess remaining. Okay, so I put what the problem gave us under the equation, 75 grams of sulfuric acid, 55 grams of calcium hydroxide. So in order to find the limiting reactant, we set up a conversion to convert 75 grams into moles. And in order to do so, you set up your problem where you have moles on top that you wish to get the result in, and the break it down thing, or molar mass, on the bottom. And so 75.0 divided by 98 results in 0.765 moles of sulfuric acid. 55 grams of calcium hydroxide can be converted into moles by setting up the same type of ratio, and 55 divided by 74 results in 0.743 moles of calcium hydroxide. And since this is a 1-to-1 ratio, they both have 1 as their coefficient in the equation, you know that calcium hydroxide is your limiting reactant. In order to find the excess remaining, we placed our values under the equation in moles now because we know what they are, and we subtract the moles that we have from the moles that we actually use, and the leftover is 0.022 moles of sulfuric acid. And in order to find this in grams, you would do 0.022 moles of sulfuric acid, and then moles on bottom, grams on top. Your moles would cancel, and you would be left with 0.022 moles times 98, which equals 2.16 grams of sulfuric acid. Okay, and this question asks us, how many grams of calcium sulfate will be produced if this reaction were to occur? So you start with your LR, your limiting reactant, and you go and you bring down your unit. Then you have a mole-to-mole ratio, as in every other stoichiometry problem. And then you also carry mole-to-mole here, and you have the break it down thing of what you wish to find the result of on the top. And the break it down thing for calcium sulfate is 136 grams. So your units cancel, and you're left with grams, and 0.743 moles times 136 would be 101 grams of calcium sulfate. And for our last problem, it asks how many grams of water would be produced as a result of the reaction. So you start with your LR once again, which is 0.743 moles of calcium hydroxide. You have your mole-to-mole ratio once again, and you know that you have 1 mole of calcium hydroxide, but you have 2 moles of water. Place that on the top, carry mole-to-mole once again, and then 1 mole of water equals 18 grams. So once again, your units will cancel. You're left with grams of water, and when you do the math, it equals 26.8 grams of water. And that's how you do stoichiometry.